This is the ultimate Destiny 2 beginner's guide for anyone who is new to the game or returning after a break. Destiny has tons of complex systems that make the game very confusing for new players, but this video will address that problem and give you a clear and straightforward introduction to the game. So whether you're playing Destiny for the first time or you're returning after a break, this video is meant for you. The first major decision you'll make as a Destiny player is deciding which class you'd like to play. This is an important decision, but don't stress about it too much because you can have 3 characters, so really what you're doing here is just picking which one you want to try first. Hunters are the agile and rogue-like characters, Titans are more tanky and melee-focused, and finally Warlocks are like wizards that focus on wielding space magic. Each class also has a unique class ability. Hunters have a dodge that lets them escape very dangerous situations, Titans put up barricades to protect their fire team, and Warlocks put down a rift that can heal or boost the damage of their fire team. Choosing which class to play is ultimately up to you, but I will note that Hunters are the most popular class by a considerable amount, and their jump is also the most intuitive to learn as a new player. However, no class really stands out as being more powerful than the others. They each have strengths and weaknesses, and you can complete all of the hardest things in the game as any of the classes. After you select a class, you'll play through a few simple missions that introduce you to the very basic things, like how to move your character and fire your weapon. As you finish up this tutorial, you'll probably notice a button called View Journey, and this will introduce you to a feature called Guardian Ranks. This is basically a checklist of things that will get progressively more challenging as time goes on. I recommend completing these objectives when you're a new player because they will guide you on your journey and introduce you to the basics of the game. At first, these objectives are very simple things like go visit this planet, but before you can really do any of this, you'll need to understand how Destiny's menu system works. Since there are a lot of different systems in this game, there are also a lot of menus. The first and most important menu is called the Director, and you can see it right next to the View Journey button that we just discussed. This is basically a big map of the current Destiny universe, and you can select a location in order to travel there. For example, there are planets like Neptune, but also social spaces like the Tower. There are also activities displayed here on the Director. Vanguard is where you'll find strikes and other 3-player missions. During these missions, you'll fight against various enemies and eventually defeat some kind of boss at the end. These are a step up from the regular story missions, but the basic Vanguard playlist called Vanguard Ops is still very beginner friendly. Next up, there is Gambit. This is a mode where 2 teams race to see who can defeat enemies faster, and players can also occasionally invade the other team to mess them up. This is kind of a blend between fighting enemies in PvE and fighting other players in PvP. Speaking of which, the Crucible is home to Destiny's player versus player activities where players compete in a variety of different modes. There is a relatively steep learning curve to Destiny's PvP, but if you practice enough to get the hang of it, PvP can be some of the most fun and replayable content in the entire game. The next menu you'll need to know is the Quest tab. In this tab, you can view your current quests, and to make things easier, you can also select a quest to track it. This little green icon will appear, and then when you go back to the Director, the same green icon will guide you and tell you where you need to travel in order to work on the quest. The Season tab is where you'll slowly unlock rewards as you level up. This will give you armor, weapons, and materials that you'll need along your journey. There's a total of 100 possible ranks in each season, but your level resets every 3 months when a new Destiny season is released. This tab on the right is your Social tab. This is where your friends will appear, and there is also this little inbox where you can accept invites to join someone's fire team or clan. That's all for this screen, but there is also another menu with a couple of things you'll need to know about. This is the character screen. You'll spend a lot of time here customizing your Guardian and selecting which weapons and armor you want to use. You can also select which subclass you want to use over here, but if you're brand new, you probably don't have many of them unlocked just yet. You will unlock and upgrade your subclasses by visiting Ikora in the Tower and completing campaigns. Each subclass has different powers and abilities that you can customize in order to make a build and grow much more powerful as a player. For example, on this screen, you'll be able to select which super and jump option you want to use. You can then pick some extra modifications called aspects and fragments in order to further enhance your subclass. Beneath your character screen, you'll find cosmetic items where you can select your ship and sparrow, equip different emblems, and modify your transmog. Don't worry too much about cosmetics for now, but keep in mind that many players become obsessed with fashion as they get more into the game. You'll probably be spending a considerable amount of time exploring the thousands of amazing armor and shader combinations that Destiny has to offer. Your inventory is the place for all of your random materials and the stuff that you pick up as you play. On the right, you'll also see how much currency you have, and the main 2 that you'll want to know are Glimmer and Legendary Shards. Glimmer is the most basic currency in the game, while legendary shards are slightly more rare and can be used to obtain more important loot at vendors. You'll constantly acquire both of these currencies while just playing the game, but if you need more Glimmer, you can get it at the Cryptarch in exchange for another material, and if you need more legendary shards, you can get them by dismantling some of your legendary gear. This is your Collections tab. Since Destiny has thousands of different weapons and armor pieces, this is where you keep track of all the ones that you have unlocked. Notably, exotics that you have unlocked can be reacquired from the Collections tab at any time for a relatively low cost. Lastly, the Clan tab is where you can view your clan and the progress towards clan loot. That's all you need to know about the menus for now, but before we move on, let's revisit the Inventory tab and take a closer look at some of the materials that are extremely important when upgrading your loot. Upgrade modules are the main material that lets you upgrade your existing gear through a process called infusion. Say you have a weapon that you really like, but it has a low level compared to the other stuff you have. With the use of an upgrade module, you can increase the power of the weapon you like by consuming another weapon that is higher level. You should never delete a legendary weapon simply because it isn't a high level. This is a trap that many new players fall into. Since you can always upgrade the level of your weapons and gear with infusion, the things you should really care about are the perks and stats of your items. Upgrade modules are obtained through campaigns, the season pass, and you can also buy them from the gunsmith. These are engrams. They are obtained by doing various activities, and they can be decrypted at the Cryptarch to become useful weapons and armor. These next three materials are closely related to one another, so I'll explain them all at once. They are enhancement cores, enhancement prisms, and ascendant shards. These materials are used to increase the stats of your existing weapons and armor up to a maximum of level 10, at which point they are considered to be masterworked. Each level on a weapon will increase a single stat by 1 point. On armor, you will get +2 of every stat after you upgrade it to level 10. As a brand new player, you'll want to avoid masterworking anything to level 10 for now, unless you're absolutely sure that you want to use it long term. Save your materials until you're a bit more experienced and you become ready to optimize your weapons and armor. Before you can get to that point though, you're gonna need to level. Leveling is the number on all of your weapons and armor, and it steadily goes up as you play the game and get more loot. As you might assume, higher numbers are better, but as I mentioned a minute ago, you can always upgrade the power of a legendary item by infusing another item into it. Your overall power is determined by averaging all of your weapons and armor, and then adding a small amount from your artifact. This number increases based on how much experience you've gained in the current season. When you're first leveling up, you'll notice that your power increases extremely fast for a while. Basically, every single activity will increase your power. Eventually though, you'll reach something called the soft cap, at which point you'll only be able to go higher by completing activities that drop powerful loot. You can tell if an activity drops powerful loot by hovering over it and reading what type of loot it provides. Sources of powerful loot will also be highlighted on your director with these little icons. After a while of acquiring powerful loot, you'll reach another plateau called the powerful cap. At this point, the only way to increase your power further is by completing activities that drop pinnacle loot. You can only obtain a small number of these each week, but every Tuesday you'll be able to repeat pinnacle activities to get more pinnacle loot. Similar to the powerful loot, these are also highlighted on your director. An important thing to note while leveling is that Destiny is smart. You don't need to equip the highest level gear in order to get higher level drops. You can even put your highest level gear in the vault. As long as you don't dismantle it, you'll continue to receive higher and higher level drops. If you want to level efficiently, something you really need to keep track of is the levels of each of your individual slots on your Guardian. If you have one item, let's say your heavy weapon for example, that is significantly lower than all of your other items, you really want to get that item up before you go to your next powerful or pinnacle drop. This is because having that one low-level item will tank your overall power level and prevent you from getting something that is a significant upgrade for one of your other slots. Many players often complain about having bad luck and getting powerful or pinnacle drops that aren't really an upgrade, but most of the time this is really just due to them not noticing that one of their slots is really lagging behind. If you notice a slot is lagging behind, go do a non-pinnacle activity to get an item to drop at your current level. If you want to play more intermediate Destiny activities and graduate from being a total noob, you're going to need to use some third-party resources. I know, this may sound scary and complicated, but I promise it really is not. It is super simple. The first essential resource is called Destiny Item Manager, or DIM for short. This website lets you view all of your items on your character, vault, postmaster, and inventory. You can use this to easily transfer any item on any of these locations by simply dragging it like this. Another handy feature here is you can see the maximum power for each of your slots on your Guardian, making it easy to notice if one slot is falling behind. This website can do all kinds of cool advanced things as well, so feel free to explore it more later as you become a more experienced player. Light.gg is a database where you can look up basically anything that has ever existed in this game. If you want to learn more about a weapon that you have or find out what perks can roll on various weapons, this is where you can do that. Clearly biased opinion here, but another resource I would recommend for new players is my Discord server. We have experienced players who've played the game for almost a decade, and they're able to answer any question that you might have about Destiny. We even have a special channel dedicated to answering your questions. There's a no stupid questions policy, and we will literally ban someone if they make fun of you for asking a question. Destiny is complicated, and I guarantee that you will have many questions during your lifetime as a Destiny player. So definitely join us at discord.gg/shadowdestiny. Before we go any further, I want to introduce you to a sort of Destiny dictionary. There are a lot of terms and acronyms that you'll see while playing Destiny, and it's important to understand them. For example, a blueberry is a player who is not in your fire team, and they will show up as a blue dot on your radar. DPS means damage per second and is commonly referenced when calculating how good a weapon is in PvE, which means player versus environment. Kinetic refers to this weapon slot, energy refers to this weapon slot, and power or heavy refers to this weapon slot. LFG stands for looking for group. KWTD means know what to do and is commonly used by experienced players searching for other experienced players, or someone trying to get a carry from experienced players. A carry is when a player just kind of does nothing and other players complete the activity for them. Meta means most effective tactics available and is commonly used in discussions about the best weapons in the game. ADS means aim down sights. Primary ammo is the basic ammo type used by weapons like auto rifles. Special ammo is green, limited, and is used for weapons like shotguns and snipers. Heavy ammo is rare, purple, and is used for powerful weapons like rocket launchers. AE means airborne effectiveness and refers to how good your weapons are while jumping. I recommend that you save this video and come back to it later so that you do not forget these important Destiny definitions. They will come up constantly while playing the game and interacting with other players, and you'll need to know what they mean in order to understand what other people are saying. Destiny 2 has many different types of activities, so let's cover a brief overview of where you'll be spending most of your time as a Guardian. We already covered these core modes, but there are also a couple other activities to keep in mind. Lost sectors are hidden areas on planets where you can defeat enemies and claim a chest of loot. They are clearly marked with this symbol, although they can still be a little tricky to find sometimes. At higher difficulties, lost sectors are actually super important for obtaining and farming exotics, but we'll talk more about that later. Raids are endgame 6-player PvE activities that are meant for more advanced players, but you should absolutely aspire to do a raid someday. Raids are the most impressive and massive things Destiny has to offer, and you will not truly understand what Destiny is all about until you have experienced a raid. Dungeons are activities that are kind of like mini raids because they only require 3 players and they are much faster to complete. Dungeons can provide a fancy type of armor called Artifice Armor that gives you bonus stats, but you don't have to worry about that until you're a much more advanced player. Each new season in Destiny generally introduces a new seasonal activity to play. These activities can sometimes be found in the Helm, and they are tied closely to the story of that particular season. Public events are random activities that appear while you're patrolling around on any planet. These events only take a few minutes and have specific objectives for you to accomplish. Importantly, if you do a certain thing during an event, you can turn it into a heroic public event in order to get more rewards. Many players seem to think that heroic events are just random, but this is not the case for any of them. The tower is the primary social space in Destiny 2. You'll be spending a lot of your time here because this is home to many important NPCs. You will land right here, and if you walk to your left, you'll find the Postmaster. This is where lost items will go. For example, if you acquired a new weapon but your inventory was full at the time, your weapon will be waiting for you here. However, be careful and don't let valuable items just sit in the Postmaster. There is a limited number of items that can be kept here, and your things will get deleted if you overfill your Postmaster with too much stuff. Over here, this is the vault, and it is a huge storage space for all of your loot. When you get a piece of loot but you don't want to use it for a while, you'll want to store it in the vault. The vault can hold several hundred items at once, and this might seem like a lot, but once you become a more experienced player, you'll find that this fills up very quickly. Next to the vault, we also have this exotic kiosk where you can buy exotic and legendary weapons from the past that are no longer obtainable through regular gameplay. If you're someone who's returning to Destiny after a break, you will definitely want to check this out. The tower is also home to vendors associated with the core playlist that I mentioned earlier. Shax runs the Crucible, Zavala handles Vanguard operations, and the Drifter is responsible for Gambit. You'll notice that each of these vendors have mini quests called bounties. These will show up on your quest screen, and they will give you XP by completing them like this. Completing bounties for each of these vendors each week will also reward you with powerful loot, and this is an extremely easy way to level up. After you've completed the most basic intro activities in Destiny, you're going to want to start caring about stats and mods. These things can take your Guardian from being like a 2 out of 10 on the powerfulness scale up to like an 8 out of 10. Your stats can be viewed here on the character screen, and they each do different things. Mobility will increase your jump height and your strafe speed, but notably it does not increase your sprint speed. For hunters, this stat also lets you dodge more often. Resilience increases how much HP you have, reduces the amount you flinch when you get hit, provides some damage resistance in PvE, and makes Titan barricades recharge faster. Recovery makes your health recover faster and also makes Warlock rifts regenerate faster. Discipline makes your grenades recharge faster, Intellect makes your super recharge faster, and Strength makes your melee recharge faster. You will need to decide for yourself which stats you personally aim for when building your character, so make sure you're looking at the stats on your different armor pieces so that you can select your favorites. The way that stats work in Destiny is they are divided into different tiers, meaning that only multiples of 10 actually have an impact on your Guardian. So in other words, there is no difference between having a 10 and a 19 of a certain stat. You would need to get it up to 20 in order for it to be better than 10. Additionally, you should know that stat points above 100 do absolutely nothing. As you advance towards the Destiny 2 endgame, optimizing your stats and getting armor with good rolls will become a priority. In general, anything above a total of 60 is worth keeping when you're new, especially if it has a high value of the stats that you want. Anything above 65 is pretty exceptional, with 68 being the highest possible total before any mods or masterworks are applied. Exotics, however, can roll up to 71 total stats, but these are super rare and I've only gotten a single 71 stat drop in all of my time playing Destiny. Mods are applied to your armor and weapons. They give bonuses to stats and provide incredibly powerful and unique effects. Starting off with weapon mods, these are rather simple things that slightly enhance something about your weapon. For example, they can do things like increase the magazine size of your weapon or increase how much damage it deals against certain enemy types. Armor mods are a bit more complicated because they simply do more things and they often synergize with one another. For example, one armor mod will charge up your character, and then another armor mod will spend that charge in order to boost one of your abilities. There are tons of different mods to look through, and you can mess around with different ones in order to find out which combos you like. Once you come up with a combo of mods and armor that you like, you'll want to create a loadout. You can access the loadout system like this on the left side of your character. This is an extremely useful system that lets you save what you currently have equipped so that you can come back to it later. You can change your mods, armor, weapons, and even subclass to something else, but then you can return to the loadout you saved with a single click of a button. You can also save multiple different loadouts here so that you can easily swap between different builds that you design for different activities. When considering mods, you also need to know about artifact mods. These are super fancy mods that can be accessed right here on your artifact, and they will become unlocked as you earn experience in the current season. These mods are fancy because you don't have to actually equip them. Once you unlock them, they will always be applied to your character. These mods will change every season, but some of them are incredibly powerful and you definitely want to make use of them. An extra thing to be aware of is some of these mods will allow you to counter certain enemy types in the game. Champions are special enemies that will be extremely difficult to defeat unless you have the correct mod from your artifact that will let you stun them. For example, this is a barrier champion and you cannot hit him with a normal weapon unless you have an artifact mod that lets you counter the barrier. Some exotic weapons also have unique anti-champion capabilities that lets you absolutely destroy champions, so keep an eye out for those as well. Speaking of exotics, these are some of the most powerful and high rarity items in the game. For example, the Last Word is an exotic hand cannon that fires faster than any other hand cannon and is also incredibly accurate and deadly while firing from the hip. No other weapon feels quite like the Last Word. Anyway, you'll probably want to make use of an exotic weapon and an exotic armor piece in your loadout. You can only equip one exotic weapon and one exotic armor piece at a time, so you'll have to choose wisely. The easiest way to get exotics is to visit a mysterious traveler named Zur who only appears on the weekends. He also appears in different locations, so you'll have to look up where he is in order to find him. Each week he sells a selection of different exotic weapons and armor in addition to a few legendary items. As a new player, you want to make sure you visit Zur every weekend because the legendary armor he sells might be a massive upgrade for you, and this is also a super easy way to unlock your first collection of exotics. You'll also be able to purchase a randomized exotic engram from him if you can afford it. Other ways to get exotics include Legendary and Master difficulty Lost Sectors, the Vex Strike Force event on Neomuna, and just random drops that you get while playing. If you're watching this video after May 2023, you'll also be able to focus exotics at the Cryptarch. You can only focus exotics that you have already obtained, but this is a great way to get better stat rolls on exotics that you already have and know that you like. Crafting is a way to pick exactly what perks you want on your weapons. As you start to get into more endgame stuff, you'll find that weapon crafting is an incredibly important part of obtaining the most powerful weapons in the game. Most weapons drop with randomized perks, and these perks are often not the ones that you want, so the crafting system is the way to create your ideal weapon. In order to craft a weapon, you'll first need to collect patterns. You can do this by deleting weapons that have red borders around them, or by completing the objective on them and then extracting the pattern like this. After you craft a weapon, you'll need to level it up by using it, and eventually you'll unlock all of the perk options on it. You can then reshape your weapon with amazing perks, and you can even spend extra resources to get fancy enhanced versions of your favorite perks. You can unlock the crafting system by doing the first couple missions of the Witch Queen campaign, and I would recommend doing this as soon as possible so that you can begin getting those red border weapons to drop. If you get invested enough into the game and play it for a while, you'll start to realize that a lot of the content requires you to own expansions or seasons. Generally, if you're going to purchase expansions, it's a good idea to buy the latest ones because they will give you access to the most relevant and recent activities and story missions. The Witch Queen also stands out as it is by far the best campaign in Destiny 2 right now. So if you're looking for a fantastic narrative experience with amazing story missions, that's where to go. Generally, my opinion is that you should try Destiny for free when you're brand new, and then if you decide you actually enjoy the game, it's probably worth buying expansions. These will unlock so many new exotics and activities and story missions that you would not have access to as a free-to-play player, and if you're regularly playing the game, it is absolutely worth buying some of this content in my opinion. Definitely buy the newer stuff before you buy stuff like Shadowkeep though, as it is rather outdated and doesn't provide as much value. I asked my community of experienced Destiny players to answer the following question. If you could give one piece of advice to a new Destiny 2 player, what would it be? There were hundreds of replies, but I'm going to share some of the best and most helpful ones with you now. I hope that you find these insightful. This guy said, the best advice I could give is to find people to play with. Whether it be friends, family, or a clan, the game is infinitely better with friends. There's plenty of discords and clans to join too. There were about 100 more comments saying similar things, and I absolutely agree. Destiny can be played solo, but it is common knowledge that this game is more enjoyable when played with friends. If you're looking for friends to play with, I will again remind you that my Discord is a great way to meet people. Join us at discord.gg/shadowdestiny. Use whatever you are comfortable with and find fun. It doesn't have to be meta, and don't let people control what you use. At the end of the day, Destiny is a game, and games are meant to be fun. You should play whatever activities you find enjoyable and use whatever weapons you think are cool. Don't let anyone else make those decisions for you. I'd also add here that you don't have to exclusively use what YouTubers tell you to use. This guy said, watch Shadow Destiny. Yeah, this is definitely a pro tip right here. In all seriousness though, if you're finding this video helpful, you'll probably like my other videos as well. Check them out after you're done watching this. Another piece of advice I'd leave you with is to explore the game at your own pace, and do so with the goal of finding some part of the game that you personally enjoy. Try out Gambit, Crucible, Dares of Eternity, Dungeons, explore everything, and find something specific that you like doing. That is truly the key to enjoying your time in the Destiny universe. There are about 100 exotic weapons, and if you're a brand new player, you might be wondering which ones are actually good and worth using. Well, I actually have the perfect solution for you. I ranked every exotic weapon into a tier list based on their PvP performance in this video right here, and I recommend watching it now. I hope that you found this beginner's guide educational. It took a lot of work to put it together, so consider subscribing, and if you're feeling generous, try out the super thanks button. Thanks for watching, have a great day.